Dominic was born and raised in a small province that was once known for logging. In those days, it was full of life. Trucks scurried around and people came looking for business opportunities. Gradually, due to competition, the demand for timber began to fall. Rather, timber sales began to decline due to the inconvenient location of the village. The once developed province began to fade away. Today it looks more like a ghost town with many empty and abandoned houses. Dominic enjoyed life in the countryside. He was a happy child. There were endless forests for him to go on adventures in, rich wildlife, an abundance of fresh berries, and vast expanses of clear blue lakes. He grew up with his loving mother and grandfather, who always taught him tricks for navigating nature. Grandpa Gary taught Dominic to love and respect nature. From an early age, he told the boy that nature always reciprocates. If you respect her, she will be generous to you in return. Dominic wasn't sure what his grandfather meant, but he tried to listen to his advice. Dominic did not know his father. One time, he overheard a fight between his mother and a neighbor who was accusing her of promiscuity. Those words sank deep into the child's memory, even though he did not fully grasp their meaning at first. When his mother died of a serious illness, he found out for the first time the true meaning of loneliness. Grandpa Gary did everything in his power to prevent the boy from feeling like an orphan, and he succeeded. Gradually, Dominic stopped crying and became even more attached to his granddad. Gary showed his grandson the world. He took Dominic to the forest often and told him endless, exciting stories about his life. Years passed. Dominic grew up, moved to the city, and studied to be a doctor. He had always dreamed of helping people and coming to their rescue at the right time. While studying at the university, Dominic learned about all the subtleties of his future profession and then successfully put them into practice. The man became a first-class surgeon. During his career as a doctor, he saved so many lives that he lost count. His successes lasted until the moment he failed to save a young pregnant woman. The doctor lost 2 lives overnight, and this incident completely shattered him. Dominic knew that the case was hopeless and that he and his team did everything in their power. Still, this knowledge did not make things easier. His worries turned into depression, and the surgeon refused to continue operating. Feelings of guilt can make a person go crazy, quit the profession, or drown in alcoholic oblivion. But the young doctor felt needed and knew that dozens of sick people were counting on him. Their life depended on his steady hands, so there was no time to grieve or throw away his life. Dominic firmly decided to overcome his depression and return to his former life. The man had to quit his job in order to receive a diagnosis and undergo treatment. In 4 months, Dominic lost a lot of weight, and bruises appeared under his eyes. The doctors could not help since the problem was in his head. Dominic himself understood it full well. He had to take a time out. He closed himself off and turned off his phone so as not to have to explain anything to anyone. Dominic decided to go to his late grandfather's lake house, where he once spent a happy childhood. He really liked it there, especially in the mornings, when the sun rose from behind the horizon and cast its pre-dawn rays over the water. He believed that nature and solitude would help him cope with stress and return to normal life. One day before sunset, Dominic went for a walk deep inside the forest, for no particular reason. He simply walked, remembering the walks he shared with his grandpa Gary, listened to the birds and the rustling of the leaves, and inhaled the smell of grass. It's so nice in nature. You look around and understand that there will always be life here. It fills everything with its presence, from a blade of grass to a mighty 100-year-old tree. A gray-haired and kind-looking old woman walked towards Dominic. The man was surprised to see her and didn't know where she came from. He had never seen her before in the village. Moreover, how could such an old woman travel such a long distance on foot? The full basket of medicinal herbs that she carried led Dominic to believe that she was an herbalist whom the locals were talking about. He was even advised to turn to her for help. But the young doctor did not really believe in the miracles of traditional medicine. "My dear, you have saved hundreds of lives, but you can't fix your own?" The old woman suddenly began to speak. "Who will save them, if not you? I know you won't just ask for my help, so I'll just give it to you." The old woman began to look at the man intently. Dominic should have been surprised by the fact that this random woman in the forest knew everything about him. Where did she learn all this information? Instead, he listened to her, as if spellbound, and responded, "There are lots of people like me. I'm not the only good surgeon out there, and nothing will change with my departure. The hospital will continue to work," Dominic said sadly. "Come with me. It will be your first stop on the way to a new life," the old woman suggested. The man was confused, but still decided to follow the healer. The old woman's forest hut was cozy, dry, and warm. It smelled like herbs and smoke from a burning stove. A little gray wolf cub sat on the mat in the corner. "Here, I found a friend for you," said the old herbalist, and pointed her finger at the predator. "Take him with you and make him better. As you can see, he is wounded. He will serve you faithfully. His name is Oscar. Time will put everything else in its place," the old woman said mysteriously. The man could not believe his eyes and ears, but he still took the wolf cub home. That's how Oscar moved into Dominic's house. "How come I never thought to get a pet before?" wondered Dominic. Time passed fast as Dominic cared for the small, sick animal. He became very attached to his pet, and the wolf answered him with warmth and love. The wolf got bigger and quickly turned from a sickly mutt into a mighty creature, devoted to his owner. The two of them often went for walks in the forest to admire nature, breathe in fresh air, and enjoy life. Once, Oscar ran away from Dominic and went deep into the forest. He did not return for a long time. Dominic shouted and called for his friend, but he reappeared only in about half an hour, carrying something in his mouth. It was a little fox that needed urgent surgery. The young doctor had no choice but to start saving the poor animal. Dominic rushed home, laid out all the medical instruments he still had, and got down to business. At first, his hands trembled slightly, but soon he regained his confidence and was able to successfully finish the surgery. Since then, such surgeries became a regular occurrence. Oscar would periodically bring wounded animals from the forest to Dominic, and the doctor did everything in his power to save them. That's when Dominic realized the way in which the old herbalist had helped him rediscover himself. The old woman gave Dominic a real friend, who then helped him regain his belief in himself. Dominic reflected for several days before returning to work in a city hospital. On his first day, patients injured in a horrific car accident arrived at the hospital. Only complex surgical intervention could save them. Dominic's hands were firm, and he did everything right. 3 people got a new lease on life that day. The young surgeon beamed with happiness when he left the operating room. He sank into a chair in the staff room and cried while no one was looking. The next weekend, Dominic returned to the village with gifts for the old woman and his wolf friend. The old woman was already waiting for the doctor on the doorstep, as if anticipating his arrival. Oscar was running around the yard happily. "Come inside," said the old woman. "I just baked a blackberry pie and brewed some herbal tea. I see that your eyes have changed. They are now filled with joy and a thirst for life. I'm glad to see that you're feeling better and that you were able to return to your calling in life. You know, Dominic, not all diseases can be cured by people. Sometimes the universe knows more than we do. Spending time in solitude with nature and wildlife can result in unheard of miracles.